It's the middle of the night. We can tell by the sounds of the wilderness around us. The air or the sky is completely devoid of any cloud cover. And the stars out just light up the entire sky. The moon is full and bright, and definitely what we'd call a hunter's moon. You can pretty much see. And what the moonlight casts down upon is a large man in blue steel full plate from head to toe. He's standing at the edge of a small river. The water barely moving this time of year because it's so cold. And ice and frost have built up on the edges of the bank so that only the very middle of the river is like slightly moving. He's looking towards a camp, a military camp. Based on the way he's standing and looking at it, it's probably his camp because he wouldn't be standing this close at an enemy camp. We see some fires burning, some soldiers around the campsite, people sharpening weapons, just traditional general military actions that would be taken. Cecil pulls his visor up on his helmet and lets out a long-winded sigh. His arms are behind his back, and even though there's no one around to care, he stands in perfect military posture. We don't know what's going on inside his head, but he wears a pensive look on his face that we can now see from the mask being lifted. The air is so cold that his armor is building condensation, and we can see it glisten under the moonlight. It would almost be a beautiful scene if it wasn't for the fact that we know the man is carrying a broken heart and a broken soul. A figure slowly begins to make their way from the camp. We can see them from all the campfires and the firelight. They are walking directly towards Cecil with purpose. It's a young soldier. He's carrying something in his hand. Looks to be a rolled up scroll or some sort of note. Cecil's posture becomes even more erect because one of his soldiers is walking towards him. The man makes his way through the frozen ground that is like slightly mud, and he actually gets stuck halfway through and takes a step, and his foot pulls from his boot, and he like stumbles into the mud, and then like looks back at his boot sticking out of the mud, and then looks towards Cecil. Cecil just stands there. He hurriedly turns around and puts his foot back in his boot, and Cecil lets out a kind of like not a laugh, just like a weird grunt, almost like he's impatient with this now. The soldier puts his boot back on, wrestles it from the mud, and keeps moving towards him. He doesn't hand the scroll to Cecil. We're tricked. The scroll has nothing to do with why they're talking at this moment. He just happens to be holding it. The young man says, "Sir!" And he stands at attention. And he gets really close before he says that. He gives the gauntlet salute. I did it again. He gives the gauntlet salute. The words are close. He says, "Sir," he goes, you're requested back at the camp." "Am I?" "Yes." "Very well then." The young man turns around and begins to walk back towards the camp. Cecil turns, facing the water now at this point. Says nothing. There's nothing to say anything to. He closes his visor. Makes a slight metal clang. After the last few centimeters, it kind of like drops. He turns around and begins to walk. Cecil takes a wide berth around the mud plain the man just stuck his boot in. Makes his way into the center of camp. Every soldier that lays eyes upon Cecil will stop what they're doing and stand and give him a salute. These men revere him. And he's the constant, or the whole trip, his hands are just behind his back, folded behind his back, wrist, grabbed on wrist, And he gives each one of them a nod, but he doesn't stop to interact with any of them. We find ourselves at the largest tent in the middle of this encampment. Based on the gauntlet, flags, and tapestries and like the way that it's designed. This is the central command tent of this forward military operation. Mepaketso sits at the entrance to the tent. She looks up, looking freshly bathed. How she did that out here must have been magic. Her hair is into its traditional, or her signature ponytails, or her pigtails, I should say. Sorry. She looks up at Cecil and says, "Out for a walk, were we?" That's his response. A nice, strong, She doesn't respond. She just gives a slight half smile from the left side of her mouth. And she reaches across and grabs the tent flap and like opens it up. He gives her a thankful nod and bows his head in as he enters into the tent. Inside the tent is a large oaken table set up on like 6-inch by 6-inch wooden block. This table will survive much longer than the rest of this camp. You won't even move this table. It'll stay here when they leave. It must weigh like 500 pounds. Maps are across it. 2 guards, gauntlet soldiers of higher rank. These men are in plate mail, both Cali halberds. They're on the inside of the tent. These documents and forms are things that cannot just be left out without someone guarding them at all times. The tent has other things around in here, but weapons, armor, things of that sort. Cecil looks across to the corner of the tent, and when he spies the person on the other side, he immediately tells 2 soldiers, "You're dismissed." The soldiers nod and they leave. Standing in the far corner, almost in the shadows, whether it's for effect or just by chance, is a man in black robes that seem to be ever moving. It's almost like they ebb and flow, and the bottoms of them are frayed and slightly burnt looking, and they almost look like the robes almost look like they're like burning to ash, like as they stand there, but never are quite gone. He has a thick iron mask upon his face. It is Abdul, the greatest wizard in all of the gauntlet.
"Greetings, Cecil," he says simply. "I must say I intended to make a more dramatic entrance, but I simply came into your tent and you were not here, so I hope this is still befitting. Apologies for summoning you, though. I simply wanted to come by and see how both you and Dragon Company would be doing."
Outside of the tent while this is happening, the entirety of Dragon Company has found themselves to the flap of the tent and are, well, more or less eavesdropping. Mepaketso is standing at the door, the flap of the tent, not letting anyone in. This small little gnome standing there. Of course, no one's going to like walk through. It's Mepaketso. But we can tell that she has her head slightly tilted back, and she's listening as well. Miena, Henry Morning, Rollingwood, Alex Straza, everyone's there. And they're all just kind of clumped together, standing next to the flap of this tent. They're obviously not above listening into what's going on. Alex Straza goes to open her mouth to say something. The Drow warrior, just say something even quietly. And quickly, Henry Morning reaches his finger out, like puts it almost to her lips. She's like, "Nope, don't say nothing." Henry Morning is nervously like rubbing his holy symbol as he always does, like rolling between his fingers. Back inside, Cecil had moved towards the large table, and without saying a word, beckons for Abdul to take a seat.
He graciously bows and takes a seat.
Cecil sits down as well, grabs a tray sitting to the left of the table, like on the table, but like over to the side, and draws it in front of him. The metal tray making like kind of a wood on metal scritching noise that kind of like grinds across it. Lifting his visor, then deciding that's not enough respect to show, Abdul removes his helmet and puts it down on the table. Cecil hasn't been sleeping well. That's obvious in the signs of his face. But who does sleep well during times of war? There are 2 small cups and like a pot of some sort, like a pitcher of some sort of fluid. Abdul, would you like some tea?
I would love some. Always soothes the throat.
Cecil places a cup, and all of his movements are slow, methodical, as he places like the cup in front of Abdul, places the cup in front of him, picks it up, begins to pour his tea. He says, "So, Abdul, what news do you bring me?"
Well, every other quarter, every other theaters are progressing quite well right now. But honestly, it's not as much news that I came to bring you as more as, well, I just wanted to check in upon things. I know right now is a very active and especially violent theater of the events that are going on, and I know that you and Dragon Company are being put under a lot of pressure and a lot of things going on. So I simply, on high authority, wanted to come in and make sure everyone is holding their own and, well, spirits high, everything going well.
We can hear the sounds of nature outside, because even in the dead of winter, these lands are just full of animals and creatures, especially in the night. Cecil puts his hand to his face, thumb on chin, finger below his top lip. We're doing well.
It's good to hear.
He goes, "My reports have already been sent, so you shall see them when they arrive. But we were able to capture." He goes, "Oh," and he actually goes, "I don't remember exactly the Lord's name." He goes, "We captured his stronghold, well, his estate, with minimal resistance.
I see.
We have the prisoners being sent to the predestined location.
Of course.
We had acceptable casualties, as much as any casualty can never be acceptable.
Understood.
But at war, such as war does."
Yes.
Prisoners will be, this is an out-of-game thing, but both of these characters will know this. The prisoners will be housed in the reservoir area until they can be processed.
Yeah. A little bit of world building, that the Gauntlet doesn't take the prisoners, march them off somewhere, and throw them in gallows.
Yeah.
Some of them will be.
If they can be proven to have done horrible, horrible things,
Like,
yes.
it'll take a long time to do it.
Yep.
But everyone is due their own.
And then I assume the property was all seized, assets claimed.
Of course.
Keep them under our purview for the moment.
Of course.
Situation is.
Dragon Company's doing well. He goes, "I couldn't have asked for better teammates." He goes, "Especially my new ones." He goes, "Alexstrasza, Tarina." He goes, "They are invaluable."
Well, I've all come to know they are all very good at their jobs.
I don't think you'll get a lot of problems from us.
Oh, it's not problems that I worry about. It's the stress of war and several other factors. I know you, Mepiketso, a few of the others, were there at the fall of our old base at Om. Things have been rough in this theater. So I only want to make sure that, as Gauntlet members do, they push on anyway.
Abdul, are you checking on Dragon Company or are you checking on me?
I'm checking on both.
Hmm.
Two of them are under my direct supervision, after all.
What is a man without purpose?
And without purpose typically becomes a hollow thing.
I asked that question knowing that if anyone's going to give me a wise answer, it would be the great Abdul. You're right.
Well, I do not need to be so embellished.
So if you're checking on me, I am fine. As fine as I can be.
I didn't want to come off. I'm always bad at the words.
Is my soul crushed? Yes. Do I wake up in the morning and convince myself there's a reason to keep moving forward? Yes. But wouldn't it be more terrifying if I didn't? If I could simply just take everything that happened and sweep it under the rug and pretend like it does not affect me at all?
I don't think understanding.
Do I think about exacting my version of revenge upon all of them? Yes. I know better than to lie to you. I think about it all the time. And why shouldn't I? Do these thoughts consume me? No. The worst thing I could do is lose control. I have a daughter to think of.
Of course.
If I lose control, I'll be relieved of command. And then I'll be one man attempting to crush a nation. He goes, so I gladly accept my role, and I will operate under the rules. I am a gauntlet member, first and foremost. I was damn near there since the beginning. He goes, I'm also a dark draft. As much as I want to act on these thoughts, and I just want to burn them all, everything I does reflects on my brothers, who have their family members, my daughters of noble blood. No child wants to grow up with tainted noble blood. I am fine, Abdul, as fine as I can be.
I understand.
I will give the gauntlet 120%.
As you have always given me. And I know that for a fact.
I can't control what I think deep down inside. I can just tell you that right now I will be acting on it.
Well, strong men are men who have that ability within inside themselves where they can contain it. I wouldn't lie and say that I didn't have, it's almost a pun, my own demons to deal with and had to conquer them for the greater good. I can promise you this though, if it even helps a bit more. We did a lot, me and Cadis together, while I was walking a bit of a hollow man. But no matter how long it took, no matter what we went through, he made sure one day I would no longer be that kind of man anymore. And I would get what I've been looking for so long. So you would know that even if Cadis has very intense scruples, he does not forget anyone, especially those who work hardest for him and know what they also want. And, all the better, for the gauntlet. Best thing we can do is give your daughter the best dang world she could ever hope to grow up in. With that, he gives like a humble chuckle, like the sincerest thing.
Cecil's been nodding like through most of that little end speech, and he goes, "No, that is all correct." He goes, "Ah, well, you listen to them." Cecil looks out towards the outside the tent. And when he says that and looks, the whole group that's outside the flaps of the tent like moves slightly, like he means them. But it's obviously speaking about all the wildlife and like the howling sounds of like distant coyotes or some sort of like whatever beasts have still found themselves in the lower areas of this land because the mountains are all just covered in snow. Drawing his attention back to Abdul, he says, "We shouldn't forget that we're in war."
No. But we are fighting a war unlike any other.
Is it though?
It is.
Is it?
The Gauntlet are fighting a war to break the cycle of wars, the cycle of struggle, the cycle of petty tyrannical kingdoms breaking and rising that dictate all any must do in the realm. Many people are willing to die in this war simply out of the fact they know what they're fighting for.
Cecil nods.
And that is why almost more of this war, I don't want to be pedantic and talk down to you, Cecil, I know, but this war is won almost as much in the hearts of the mind of the people we're fighting for as in the field. That's why your men love you. That's why people fight for Cadis. We can't afford to be just like any other warlord who's conquered these kingdoms 1,000 times before.
Cecil has put his elbows on the table and he's looking at Abdul with this look on his face and he goes, "I've been fighting war since I was 12. I know these things." He goes, "I've been in the muck. I've held soldiers while they died for ideals. I get it. I do." He goes, "You don't have to worry about me when it comes to war. I know my place."
I wasn't attempting to reprimand you on your place.
Wasn't taken as one. I'm a soldier. That's what I know. He goes, "I will lead these men, and they will follow me to the 9 hells, if I see fit. And we'll win your damn war." He goes, "And the next one, and the next one, because there'll be more."
Oh, I know there will be.
He goes, "But," he goes, "that's enough of the heavy-handed, heavy-hearted stuff. I'm fine. You can can go back and tell him that I will do my job. And that we probably have much larger things to worry about. It's at this point, as we see Cecil stand up and he starts like putting maps in front of Abdul, and they start talking about like enemy placements and the way things are going and like the stuff going on. Not in like a like we're losing way. He's just kind of like, no, this is going on, this is going on. And it seems as though Cecil wants to shift the conversation away from like the emotional side of things and the heavy-hearted stuff to more like a tactical. Even though that's not really what Abdul's here for.
Well, Abdul has other things that
Right.
face a couple of people that leave. So
Right.
Abdul reciprocates basically as he's given the report basically early of like what's going on.
Right.
And before he moves on, it's like, oh, I should talk to my pupils before I leave and see how they're doing. You know, that's another thing. It was good to have this talk.
Cecil says, of course. He goes, I appreciate it. We don't know how much of what Cecil says Cecil believes or doesn't believe. He seems to be speaking from the heart. He seems to be saying what he feels. But who knows? Who knows what will happen? War changes people, especially when the losses are much more direct. At this point, Abdul begins to leave the tent, and the rest of Dragon Company scatters. Not far enough away to draw attention to themselves, and not like out of a fear, but they just kind of try to move away. And so what you end up seeing is like Abdul walks out of the tent into the night air, and there's like Dragon Company members, but they're all slightly spread out. But Mepaketzel like just turns right around as you walk up. Mepaketzel looks at Abdul, and she goes, "Oh, hello." And she gives a gracious nod to her head wizard.
Okay, so we are doing it. I thought I was giving the summary. No, yeah, he looked at us like, wow, it's good to see you. How has studying been in the
What
field
study?
of war?
What am I supposed to study?
Not much, I can tell you that firsthand. I just want to know if you were a more impressive wizard than I.
She goes, "Oh, I don't really know how to quantify that." She goes, "I wouldn't think so."
Out of character, you can both tell they're all wizards are bad at socializing.
She goes, "So," she goes, "what do you need from me?
Nothing
What
I really
can I do for you?"
need. I just wanted to check in on all of you. You and Mina especially, as he looks over to her too, just to give her a nod. As, after all, I am the head of Lexicon. Just, how do I want to put this? Just always remember to let me know if anything happens.
Yeah,
I'm
of course.
sure I've known how this company works and how Cecil works in it. I know that you'll do your best to advise him as a wizard should. And I just hope you keep achieving that task.
Absolutely.
And do your best to always remember that you are a wizard and a member of the Gauntlet and a member of the Lexicon, because things are going to get rough, and I understand that. I've faced things that have made me question whether or not I could really do this, but just trust in yourself.
Are you forewarning me of some sort of, like, is there like a Baylor hiding in the bushes or something?
I'm giving a very bad attempt at a teacher's pep talk.
Oh, okay.
He says with a slight chuckle. How
Oh.
am I doing so far?
Well, I mean, the effort's there. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, as long as you know the effort's there, I'm just...
Yeah, of course.
See, a war also means that I can't really practice that either.
I don't think you need to worry about us too much. I feel like some of the younger teams
Oh, I know.
that aren't as much cohesive.
I know
probably use more
Cecil probably doubts it, but I do just plan to check on everyone.
repair. Okay, well,
It's
I'm sure it's appreciated.
so just remember to keep your wits about you.
Of course.
And all of you, and he looks around, and keep doing your good work. And keep remembering that you're not just in some war as some fighters. You are Gauntlet. We are the good guys. We fight all the harder and suffer all the more because we try and follow the rules and we try to have some sort of moral code through all of this. But you are fighting for a better world, no matter how foolish that might sound to me to say.
Gaunt members nod, different forms of positive reaction. Mepaketzel goes, "Yeah, I think we know that."
As it becomes more apparent that Abdul can't really do a cadus, he nods to all of them.
Yeah, so you saw like C minus.
Yeah. As he's like, well, I put my faith in all of you. It has been good to catch up and see you're all doing well. Unless there's anything you would want of me, I will go about my other duties. There's a lot to do right now.
With that, Abdul opens a magical rift, a teleportation spell to somewhere far off, and steps through. The rift, cracking with energy, slowly closes behind him, leaving just like a phantasmal energy floating through the air. As the Dragon Company members all like look at each other, the flap of the tent opens up. Cecil's standing there, and he goes, "So, we all gonna have some food or what?" And they smile and all begin to enter the large tent.